Hey guys, hope everybody's doing well. I am going to be talking a little bit about how I made this image. This is not really a tutorial where I'm actually doing the photoshopping, but I'm going to break it down to show you how I pieced together this specific image, this one right here. So my process is kind of scattered and a little bit of everywhere, but I'm hoping that through this video you'll be able to learn more or less the process of how this image, which I ended up calling Silence, came together. So I have three files up here, as you can see. I started with this one, and then Photoshop crashed and saved a copy of what I was working on, because that was a huge mistake that I made, was not to save my work as I went along. And then I ended up with this one. So let me go ahead and start with this one, which is where I began. And as you see, this is kind of what it looked like before Photoshop crashed. So let me go ahead and turn off the layers to show you what I started with. Okay, so this is the original image that I started with. I took this image at Promoting Passion Conference in New York. I knew the minute that she looked up at the sky that I wanted to do something with the stars and the moon. I was just really inspired by the life of Pi in this moment. It's movies and music really inspire me in my art and just in my life in general. So for some reason, her alone on a boat looking up just really made me think of Life of Pi. So that's really the basis for this image. So here I have a stock sky image that I took a few years ago at a lake. I did some night photography, and I usually use the same image over and over and over in a lot of these surreal, dreamlike images. Okay, so I added the sky. As you can see, I darkened the image, and then I lightened it again. I don't really remember specifically what I was doing, but there it is. And then I added the same picture reversed. So I mirrored, and then I was also doing a lot of research online on trying to make this believable. And somebody said to put in a black line at the horizon, which I did. Then I added my reflection. And so the reason why I didn't record a speed edit of this is because when I started working on this image, really I was just trying to nail down the process of creating a reflection, and I didn't know how it was going to go. So I wanted to kind of get the process nailed out before I started doing a speed edit, because I felt like maybe there was just going to be a lot of like useless recording in there of just me going back and forth trying to figure things out. So originally when I put this together, this wasn't really, it was just me experimenting and playing with technique. So as you see, I'm playing with a reflection. I'm really trying to figure out, okay, so how do I want her reflection to look? Like I stretched it out, I made it ripply, I added her back here again, then I reversed her, then I added some moons. So I have this really cool moon brush that I think I got from brusheasy.com. And I have a ton of brushes that I've downloaded, all the way ranging from nature ones to the moon, to snowflakes, to plants, to clouds. I have a huge range of brushes, to smoke, to lightning, and I love the moon brushes. Even though I do take stock images of the moon, I love having the brush. So then I started playing with moons, like different colors. Like I wanted to see what it would look like on this image. And then at this point, that's where my computer crashed. And thankfully, Adobe Creative Cloud saved what I was working on into this file. It's called Dreaming Recovered, obviously. So let me go ahead and turn off all these layers and keep taking you through the process of creating this image. Okay, so we covered more or less. This was the beginning. Then I added an image. And so this, as you see, it's rippled. And so what I did at this point was I Googled a tutorial on how to create ripple effect, and I'll put the link at the bottom. But anyways, let me just show you real quick what that tutorial was. Okay, so this was a tutorial that I used to create a ripple effect. And the link is below if you are looking for a great tutorial on how to make reflections. Definitely look on this one on how to create water reflections with realistic ripples in Photoshop. I also want to take you through this. So I did a lot of research on what the moon looked like at night, what it looked like in the reflection of the water, kind of just trying to get some images. I did a lot of Googling on what the water looked like at night and what reflections looked like at night, ripples, etc., to try to get a more realistic feel to my image. I do a lot of that because in my head, I don't always know all the details. So I just reference to a lot of images that are out there that have been taken by photographers to see what things look like, so that when I'm creating my composites, I'm able to recreate that. So then, as you see, I added her here, the reflection in the water. I darkened it a little bit, darkened her some more. And so obviously this wasn't the exact order that I worked in, but this is the order of the layers in order for it to look the way that I wanted it to. So some more darkening. And then here's the boat. Some darkening, some lightning, and then I added the sky. And then I think eventually I actually took her away. There's my horizon, which I ended up turning the opacity down to 18%. So let me go ahead and turn that on and off. Look at the horizon, this little dark line. So now it's on, now it's off. I added that horizon line, then I added her. And what I did with her was I have a layer mask that I ended up erasing all around her in order to place her in this image. And then I did a lot more toning because obviously we didn't shoot this at nighttime. I shot this in the middle of the day when it was cloudy and overcast. So she's a lot brighter than what I would expect her to look like at nighttime. So I added a shadow to the boat, and then I did some dodging because the light is coming from above. More dodging of my subject because I am trying to draw my eye to the subject herself. There's the first moon. Okay, this is the glow for the second moon. Okay, so there it is. So this layer right here is the glow in the clouds of the second moon. And here's the glow for the big moon. Okay, there's the light coming down on her. See, so I added some light right here with the curves layer. Tone. Some more tone. So the picture is kind of yellow right now, so I made it a little bit more blue to make it believable. And then this curves layer, which I don't really remember where it goes, but it's an adjustment for the image. So at this point, I made a decision. Okay, so I've got this huge canvas, and I need to figure out whether I want this image to be in a rectangular format or if I want this to be in a square format. I chose to make it a square format because when I put this on Instagram and online, it'll just look a lot better, but also because I am really drawn to creating some square images now. I like the square frames that I can find online, so I printed square. There's a lot of printers that do square now, which is great. So that's in essence why I chose to go with a square canvas. Okay, so now we're going to go into the final image, which is this one. I'm going to go ahead and turn off all of my layers, and I'll take you step by step. Some of them might be repetitive to what I've already said. And I know that you're probably thinking like, gosh, you've got so many layers, there's so much going on, like I don't work like that. Well, unfortunately my brain does, and I'm kind of a hot mess when I make things. So that's just, reality. All right, so that's just really taking you back through what I've already shown you, because this is just a duplication of the image that crashed. So let me go ahead and get back on track to where I was. Okay, so here I added some light. I may have added that since the last image. This was all the dodging that I did on her. Moon glow. Okay. So in this one, this is a new one. I added a reflection right here of the moon. And what I did was I used the same tutorial for creating believable reflections in the water. I toned down the opacity of this image to 30%, or of this layer to 30%, because I did want a reflection in the water, but I didn't want it to be so bright and distracting, but I still wanted it to be real. Okay, glow, that was in the last one. The light that I added was in the last one. Here you go. I added more light right here. And so it's coming down. What I did was I had it coming down from here and then I added it to the horizon because it always seemed like in the pictures that I looked like of the ocean that the horizon was always lighter. That's tone, more tone. So as I said earlier, I made the image more blue. Here I added a vignette. So what I did was I used curves and then the lasso tool to select around her. I went to the select and then I modified this and feathered the selection to something like 250 pixels so it would be really soft. And then I used my curves layer to adjust and make it darker. I did this again. And then I added more light to her. I wanted her to be more bright. And then here, the next few layers, I'm playing with textures. The textures that I use are a combination of Brooke Shaden textures, which she's provided for free on her website, and Lara Jade textures, which I got from purchasing the one of her classes on Creative Live with Sue Bryce. It was the Creative Portraits class, I think. Or Experimental Portraits, excuse me, that's the name of the class. And so I was able to get some free textures from that. So I use a variety of textures when creating my image just to add it dimension, or to give it dimension. So here's one texture, which I turned down to opacity 20, and I dodged out her and some other areas that I thought maybe the textures itself were distracting. And I did the same for this one, which looks like a paintbrush. And then I added this texture because this one has tone. This is one of the Lara Jade textures, and it's kind of got like a warmer tone to it, which I did want in my image because of the clouds and the colors that they already had. I thought it would look nice along with the texture that it had itself. Then I added this texture from Brooke Shaden, which is a cracked paint texture, which I really like to add over my images to kind of give it like an oil painting effect. I dodged out a lot of the cracks just to try to not take away from my subject. And then last but not least, I added some more light to the centerpiece to really just make it about her. So this is how I created this image. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I hope you like this video. Make sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching.